Hi, I want to talk about the fear of man and Galatians 1:10. Galatians 1:10, this is where Paul is speaking to the believers in Galatia. That's why they're called the Galatians, all right? 1:10. It says, am I, Paul, now trying to win the approval of men or of God? Or am I trying to please men? If I were still trying to please men, I would not be a servant of Christ. And that last part, he's challenging his audience. Like, do you really think I'm doing all this stuff for people? That's not my driving motivation. But when he says, if I were still trying to please men, I would not be a servant of Christ. In other words, those two things are diametrically opposed. If our driving heart, our determination is to please men, and God is somewhere else in the picture, then we're not really servants of Christ. Yeah. So what exactly does that mean? I want to be fair and say this is coming out of a homework question in the book Called to Peace, actually the companion workbook Called to Peace. And Joy Forrest, the author, makes this point. Misplaced fear leads to misplaced worship. And that's so right. I certainly have had that in my life, where authority figures somehow or other became worthy of my everything, losing myself in that process, and really God was somewhere else. And in the vernacular, that's called people pleasing, just going around trying to please people. But it does get to the level of worship, and that's where my thoughts went pretty quickly. And I have to say, I know most women struggle with this, if not all. And actually, I had to raise the question, how much does people pleasing actually fall into another term called trauma bonding, which I happen to think is more accurate? And it goes along with the Stockholm syndrome, where if you're under the control, manipulation, coercion, threats of all kinds, such that your survival depends on pleasing that person, authority figure, whatever, then what is your behavior coming out of? It's coming out of fear. It's coming out of trauma. And people would say, another term here is PTSD. It's similar to people who have served in the military and come back, and a car will backfire, which touches off their memories from being at war. And their reactions are bizarre. They go back into the old mode of what kept them alive when they were on the battlefield. And that's the same thing that happens to people that experience trauma. The whole PTSD thing is not only for those who are in the military. Not anymore. People understand. And that's one of the reasons why I choose to change that term to PTSS, post-traumatic survival skills. And so thinking through this whole thing for myself in particular, but also for the women that I serve, I just want to talk about the healing that can happen, that does happen. I'm experiencing it. As a matter of fact, a friend shared the other day about walking into a store and all of a sudden the alarms went off. Not just the ding, 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 ding because somebody left without taking the security tag off, but the whole big thing, and it wasn't clear exactly what was going on, and she just stood inside the door and kind of looked around and said to herself, I'm going to be all right, but I wonder what that is. And then they came and explained what was happening. Now, that might sound like normal behavior to you, but that sounds like massive healing behavior to me. And because my friend told me that in the past, because of the way she'd been treated, loud noises would really put her into a panic. And so there was a growth marker for her of healing out of her own trauma past, of the survival skills, PTSS, that kept her alive, that are incredible skills and ability, smarts of all kinds, a clear measure of strength of character and adaptability. So what about when we heal? And what about all this stuff relative to our spiritual journey and our relationship with God? And I just want you to know where I went with this. I wrote down my words. So I wonder how much pleasing men, people pleasing, is actually PTSS, like the Stockholm Syndrome. And that the habit, in other words, the neural pathway shift away from those survival skills into our healing journey, it actually continues. We know that, and God knows that. So whenever God arranged it, he made our brains in such a way that the plasticity that takes us down negative neural pathways in trauma, stress, and so on, can also be healed. So when a target, in other words, another word is a victim or a survivor, but I like the term target because, and actually it's starting to be used in other circles, but I like the term target because a target is being aimed at, maybe set on a easel on a stand or stuck on a wall so they can't get away, and having things thrown at them. But a target can actually move. A target, like I think about an archery target. If that were me, I could get up and move. Okay. When a target stands up to anyone, all right, one of those authority figures, when a target stands up to anyone, when a target chooses to walk into a threat, like my friend who walked into that store with this massive alarm going on. When a target challenges familiar specters, patterns, echoes from the past. When a target, when healing happens, those are all signs that healing is happening, right? When healing happens, when paradigms shift, God is glorified in all those things. God is glorified because those are all illustrations of his healing, of the truth of the gospel, that Jesus came to heal the sick, to free the oppressed. And every single time someone that's experienced trauma and has a whole plethora, a whole collection of PTSS, survival skills, every time healing happens and we walk in that healing, it's like a city on a hill. It's like the light that people talk about, I'm just a cracked vessel. And the light of Jesus shines out. Now, I know that not everybody will see that or know that. Those growth markers are sometimes so deep that we don't recognize them. But when we do, they can be something so tiny that it feels a little overwhelming to tell someone. I was thankful my friend was able to tell me about the alarm in the store, because it was a massive encouragement to me. I guess for me, to see that on that level, the ability to glorify God simply by healing, by declaring by who we are, walking in our proper, in our intimate design and in his unique purpose, that we're bringing glory to him simply by doing that. We don't have to do whatever these, big other things are. This is massive to do this. So I just want to encourage your heart. If you too find yourself caught fearing man, or in this people pleasing, what people call people pleasing, check out what's really going on. And if it's some of these trauma habits, be assured that healing is real. It's not only real, and it doesn't only benefit you. And as I share, just the way my friend shared with me, you encourage other women's hearts. But in addition and over all of that, our healing glorifies God. Our healing glorifies God. Okay, that's all for that right now. Just incredible stuff. God bless.